Hey everyone, and welcome to the Dave's Meshed Reality Podcast. My name's Dave Coletti, and today who I have on with me is Ryan Milleman. Ryan is an awesome off-grid badass who provides for his two kids, his beautiful wife, and has learned so many amazing different skills and ways of doing things and harnessing creativity and really bringing back some of the old forgotten ways that we had in the past that we need to bring back today to get us back into being human, back into that divine masculine, back into the divine feminine, and really harnessing the power of human creativity. So I'm so happy to have Ryan as the first guest on the Dave's Mesh Reality podcast. And so I hope you enjoy the show. Again, remember to like, subscribe, and hit the little bell so you know when we post. Also, stay tuned for Spotify very soon. All right, let's get to the show. Stuff and whatever. All right, cool. So that's going. But yeah, man, no, like I know like these questions could be really, it's interesting, right? Because it's like these questions are things that we could just go on and on and on and just talk about and just keep going and going. So it's just cool. I'm glad that, I mean, plus this preps you for Saturday, right?
Right, exactly.
You
Little,
know?
yeah.
Yeah, I know. Louise was like, oh, yes, yes.
He
Get him.
always tries to get me on. Yeah.
I know. I know. Well, that's the thing. I mean, they're the best parts of us, right?
Oh yeah.
Our wives are always the, trying to get us to do things, and we're like, yeah, okay, I'll go. I'll do it.
Pushing it to the next level. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. But yeah, dude, I had no idea though that you actually like did any of that kind of stuff like for animation and like, the audio, and I had no idea.
That was another life.
Another
I
life.
feel like, yeah, I feel like we've lived quite a few different lives.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, tell me about it, man. Like the last few years have been just like crazy. With just different, going from one thing to another thing to another thing, and then and then we just happen to run into each other and connect, and it's like a crazy cool thing, So, but
Oh yeah.
but yeah, man. So, um, I'm gonna do a little intro since this is gonna be the first podcast. There will be an intro before this, but I just want to say thank you so much. I'm here with Ryan Milleman. Ryan is an awesome, badass dude, and I'm so happy that you are my first guest, dude. Seriously, like I'm like honored. Like when I thought about it, like the 90-day run and all this stuff and everything was happening, and I was like, okay, I want to make this podcast. It's like 2 years that I've been thinking the idea. Then I'm like, you know what? I want Ryan to be my first guest.
That's awesome.
So
I'm honored. I'm
yeah, bro.
excited.
Nah, it's cool. And this is my first thing, like first time doing this too. So it's definitely it's gonna be a cool little, cool show.
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah,
I'm
man.
excited to kind of share some stuff. I feel like I'm always in the background with Louise kind of being the face. So like,
Hmm.
yeah, it feels good to kind of just share my perspective on everything.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows what Ryan's referring to is that we met through Kangen, so through our being Enagic distributors, working together and doing this really cool stuff on the side. And like Louise is the leader of our Kangen team, and Ryan is a big part of that. And so you know that's how we got connected because I came in with Paige and I was like, "Hey, what's a good strategy?" And Louise is like, "I got the guy for you, my husband." And then yeah, it's cool, man. But
Yeah.
yeah, you are in the background, and that's also another thing too. I'm like, you know what? It's like the backstage crew. Being an
Exactly.
animator, and then now hearing you're an audio guy from back in the day. Right now, it's like we're the backstage crew dudes.
Oh yeah.
You know. But yeah, dude. But like, I mean, what like even just because I had no idea, like, what got you into doing the audio stuff?
Um, a love of all things kind of music. Um, so
Mm-hmm.
I went to school for audio engineering, and then part of that was doing audio for movies and audio for animation and stuff. And I was actually I ended up being more drawn to that side of the house than the actual like recording studio side of the house.
Got it.
So, I mean, I didn't really go anywhere with it. I went to like a year long, like hardcore tech school for it,
Mhm.
and then kind of just got out and have used that in like making our videos and kind of, yeah, just here and there.
Yeah, man. I mean, like that's something that I even realize as well, where it's and something that I want to talk more about is that all of the skills that we learned in the past can really be applied to anything. And so it's like your audio and video skills now transferring into doing stuff with Kangen and anything else that you do, you're just that much more ahead. Like that learning curve part, like you did that already.
For
So
sure.
it's cool though how everything
Yeah,
just kind of comes right into each other, and it's super cool and exciting.
I
And
know.
then
I
yeah.
love how that works. Yeah, because especially the online space in general is so busy. There's a lot going on, a lot of people putting content out. So I really think having that kind of like good audio, good video, like
Mhm.
that it stands out, it grabs attention. So kind of having that has definitely helped. Like I said, helped us in the background.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's something I'm noticing is that, some people said, "Hey, Dave, you're getting into all the YouTube stuff and you're getting into podcasts, all that. Like, do you really need a nice microphone? Like, do you really need, like, why don't you just get started?" And these days, I feel like the bar is set pretty high, dude. Where it's like everybody now has professional setups, and the iPhones and Androids are getting even better, and everybody's got those DJI Bluetooth mics, in every video. So now I'm like, well, I got to catch up here. Like I can't have crappy audio and crappy video. I got to make
right,
it somewhat decent, and
yeah,
then getting this mic has been, when I got it, I was like super excited. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn how to use an actual microphone. And so, now I'm like repping Rode and all that stuff. And
nice.
yeah, no, it's cool. And
That's awesome.
yeah, man, so that's super awesome. Like I had
Yeah.
no idea. Louise did not tell me any of this.
Well, like I said, that was another life.
Well, you know what, man? It's like the thing is that, and what I really want to just say as well is that you've inspired me a lot since I met you. And it's funny because we only really had one conversation, like video to video, and then now I'm gonna see you in October for the retreat, so that's pretty awesome. Um,
Super excited about that. Yeah.
oh yeah, no, that's gonna be a good time. I like mountains. I mean, Florida's cool, but like mountains are a little bit more my thing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, like I was just like the way that you, and that's why I wanted to talk about what we're going to talk about is because the way that you raise your kids, your loving husband. I feel like you embody divine masculinity. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you are the example of new earth dad, like new earth man, and what you're bringing and what you're building and learning and doing all this stuff. It's like it's very inspirational to me. So just again, I'm so grateful for you. It's like,
Thank you.
yeah, dude, you know. But yeah, I mean like, and with that, I mean, if you want, we could just get right on into like that first topic here. And I just wanted to ask you, and I've been wondering myself, is just what made you guys want to make that transition to being off grid? Like, was it just a cool idea? Because I know that, off grid, everybody on YouTube is like, oh, off grid, van life, all that stuff. But did you just think it was cool, or did you have a deeper purpose behind why you got involved with it and what made you want to do that?
So I think it started. I mean, it started a long time ago. Even when I was in the military and we're living in a
Hmm.
suburban neighborhood, I decided to take an old ceiling fan and turn it into a wind turbine. So I like legit built this little homemade wind turbine that I used. I don't know how to rewire it and put the magnets right. I built a little PVC like wind catcher,
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
was
yeah.
generating like some power. But I think for me, it's just that like to me, when I think of off grid, it like screams freedom.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not asking anybody for my water. I'm not asking anybody for my power. I'm like, I am like the sole provider of that for our family, like it's just, I don't know. I know storms come through, and I mean, sure, things happen off grid too, and you like
Yeah.
got to go troubleshoot, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have any utility bills. The power company can't be like, I'm shutting. Like California is a good example. We were out in California for a little when I was stationed out there,
Mhm.
and now PG&E, because of all the wildfires, they will just shut power off on people.
Oh, yeah.
So like
Yeah.
they're like, hey, fire warning, we're just going to shut off your power for who knows how long. And it's like California, it's like it gets pretty warm.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess having that like peace of mind that you're in control of kind of all that for your family is kind of what kind of escalated that off grid. Um, if we kind of went, like I said, I was in the military as well, and that was a very controlled. They tell you how you
Mhm.
can, how long your hair can be, where you're living, when you're leaving your family.
Yep.
I don't know, like they control so many aspects of your life that once we got out of the military, we were like just wanted like freedom. We just wanted to be left alone. We
Yep.
wanted to travel. We wanted to do whatever we wanted when we wanted. I didn't want to
Mhm.
work for anybody again. And that kind of encompasses that whole like that off grid mentality, I guess you could call it, is just
Mhm.
wanting to, yeah, I guess more so be in control of that stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing. I mean, it's funny because I came to realize that, like what you said, right, turning off the power and all that stuff with the smart thermostats. I used to work at Best Buy, and then when the smart sections started coming, I'm like, what the hell is this, man? I've saw Terminator before, I'm like Skynet, you know what I mean? Like that's the first thing that's going off. I'm like, Skynet, man. Like, what are we doing?
James
And
Cameron warned us so long ago.
like I just think about like Kyle Reese, just like that's what he does. He doesn't sleep, but it's one of those. And then I saw people posting online like, "Hey, I have the smart Nest thermostat," and they said, due to like, over power consumption, we will be turning off your AC. I'm like, I have grandparents, I have great grandparents. I'm like, old people can't be living in that. I'm like, even babies. I'm like, what a, like young kids
Right,
can't be doing that. And
right,
so I'm like, that's crazy it's reached that point. And then, yeah, just to have that, like, in the military, I have so many friends who served and in some way, shape, or form, and like that same thing keeps popping up of just like, you got to do what you're told. You have to listen. They give you all your food. You got to follow orders, otherwise whatever, whether they punish you while you're there or they just straight up kick you out, and then there goes everything that you were either working for, if you were working for the pension, which I'm sure some people do, and or
yeah,
whatever else, you know what I mean? And it's just, yeah, that's crazy, man. And
yeah,
it's also it's just very cool that you guys came to that sort of like, let's do it for us, like let's
yeah,
not be putting ourselves in a position, especially now.
right,
I think
right.
everybody kind of learned that, you know what I'm
Oh yeah,
saying, over these
yeah. It
last
was a
3
big,
years.
big wake up call,
Oh
and it
yeah.
wasn't. It wasn't like it wasn't just like all of a sudden we like woke up and we're like, let's go off grid.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure that happens to some people, but we kind of
Mhm.
like took these baby steps. I mean, when I got out of the military, we bought an RV, and I installed like my first solar setup on the RV, so that way we could be running the AC instead of the generator when we're like driving down the road. And that's
Yeah.
kind of like that was my first solar. And then we moved to South America.
Mhm.
Um, like I said, we went a little
Yeah.
nuts when I got out of the military. So we moved to South America, Chile to be specific, and we
Mhm.
were down in the south. And I literally shipped down solar panels, and we had this tiny little cabin, and I wanted to set it up off grid, and I
Yeah.
wanted that experience. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was like another step. I mean, we had access to power if things didn't work out, but
Hmm.
like I said, it was kind of just that gradual build up to where we are today.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, like, that's even, that's the thing, like, the ingenuity of going through the whole off-grid thing, like, like, having to acquire the new skills and do all that and experiment and build, and I feel like that's the component, because like, I see some off-grid YouTube videos where I'm like, are you really off grid? It's like they're off grid. They're like, oh yeah, we're shipping. We're having this big company come in to drill a well. I'm like, you're in the middle of British Columbia, and now you're having them drill you a well. And then they're like, oh yeah, and then we have like the pizza oven over here. I'm like, a pizza oven. I'm like, what? And it's like, actual parts of a pizza. I'm like, what is this? I'm like,
Yeah.
how is this like? I'm like, is this actually off grid here, or just like like the tiny homes? Everybody wants to, get the shipping containers. They have no idea what work goes into it. It's just as expensive. Well, not just as expensive, but it could be pricey too, just like a regular house. But it's like
Oh yeah.
like I feel like YouTube is kind of like Do you feel like they've romanticized the whole van life off grid type situation?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. I've
and yeah,
oftentimes thought about making like my own YouTube video, just like
yeah,
the struggles of everyday life. I mean, I swear I spend most of my time like toting water like around to different places. So you don't have
yeah,
access to water everywhere. So I have these IBC totes kind of stacked up
yeah, yeah,
and we
yeah.
gravity feed them in. So like,
Mm-hmm.
but we have the pigs. We have another guy living out here in a trailer. We have
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like I'm toting water all day.
Like it's probably always something. It's like you literally wake up, you have an intention to do something, and then you go, up, what broke? This
Yeah.
broke, or that happened, or a bear ripped apart the camp, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, guess I got to do that today. I know
Yeah.
you're doing the pig harvest, and that was cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That went really well.
that's
Um,
cool.
yeah,
Good,
we
man.
definitely learned looking back on the first time we did it,
Mm-hmm.
our setup was so much better this time. Like
Yeah.
really took um really took like all the fails of our first time and
Mm-hmm.
really made it a lot better. So it went super smooth this time, which was awesome.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. But yeah, but I mean, but that goes into again that like having to learn different skills, having to actually go and just figure it out. I've been talking about the figure it out muscles, the FIO muscles, I feel like people don't use them these days, and it's like it's crazy, man. And so tell me a little bit about that though. Like the acquiring the new skill part and like the learning and building and doing all this stuff. And I know you do the hempcrete and everything. And, I saw you take that class. I was looking at back when I first joined you guys, I was like, oh my God. Oh no, I followed the hemp, like
Yeah.
the program. And I was like, it's Ryan. I was like, there, I'm like, there he is. He's peeking out the window. I'm like, oh my God. Like he took the course. Like he was there.
Yep.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, that was crazy. And so, yeah, like tell us about that. Like, tell us about like what process did you go through? Like, where did you even find? I mean, obviously we have the internet, right? But it's you know, like what was that process like of actually going and figuring out what you needed to learn and how to apply it? And I feel like the Chile situation really actually helped you out. I'm sure with that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the biggest things is being kind of humble with what you know.
Mm-hmm.
If you kind of go around thinking you know everything, then you're not open to receiving information from other people.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that kind of humble piece where, um, yeah, there's that piece. Another thing that I didn't intentionally do this like my whole life, but turns out like looking back when I was kind of like thinking about all the skills and everything, I realized I'm very good at like I find the person in any situation like I try to figure out what people know and what skills they have, and then I try to like everyone knows something. You know things I don't. I
Mhm.
know things you don't.
Yep.
And when you can like be okay with that, then you're just looking at the people that know more than you, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go learn what I can from this guy. I'm gonna go learn what I can from this guy. So the Chile thing is a good example. The couple, we were co-owners of a bed and breakfast down there. We bought it with another family. This guy happened to be an electrician from California.
Oh.
So the entire time we were in Chile, I was like, "Hey, what are we wiring up today? Like, teach me everything you know in like a short period of time." So, I mean, I just picked his brain. He had never done solar, so we were kind of like figuring that out together. But as far as like the day to day wiring, what to do, how to do it, California standards, like I got a really good
Mhm.
grasp of knowledge from that.
Yeah.
Um, Growing up, my dad was a mechanic on cars, and he always like we bought this old Chevy S10 Blazer, and like anytime it broke, he made me go to the shop and fix it. It's
Mhm.
not like he's like, "Yeah, I'll get that for you, son." He was
Yeah.
like, "Okay, meet me at the shop." And I'm like, "Dad, it's Saturday night. I want to be out with my friends." And he's like, "Well, you can't because your vehicle's broken."
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and then I think you just acquire another thing. I think you can't be scared to fail, like kind of
Mhm.
that failing forward.
Yep.
The
Yep.
hardest the hardest part on literally anything is kind of like taking that initial jump, that like first step, and like it's okay to fail. Like I fail constantly every single day here, and that is why we've like I failed enough times where I'm at the point where I'm at now, which is like okay. So yeah, I think that's a big part of it, just starting and not being scared to fail.
Yeah, yeah, I think that that's definitely something that a lot of people can get a little, you get spooked with that. I don't want to fail. And especially today, where we've been conditioned with this instant gratification, and, you want to instantly get it, and you're not going to instantly get it. Like, this is real human building stuff, and so it's not like a TikTok or an Instagram. You know what I mean? Like it's like if you're gonna be putting up like a shed or something, or you're gonna put up an enclosure or whatever, and then it's gonna fall apart, and you're gonna be like, "Holy crap, man!" Like now I got to go and do that all over again. I spent 5 hours doing, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh
Yep.
yeah, and I feel like that's also something too that, and again, when you work in a creative field or something, like maybe like an artist would know that, or somebody like us would know that, where it's like, oh, dude, I just set that up and it's like doesn't work out. But some of the others, like who are just especially just coming fresh out of high school or fresh out of a system or college or whatever, that's something that I think is just not, it's just not there, like that you think about, where it's like, oh, like the pigs get out. Now I gotta go and like wrangle the pigs at 12 in the morning, you know?
Right. Which
Which I
has
remember
happened.
the which I remember those videos.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that was, yeah, right. And then it's like these are the things that, it's like, yeah, your ancestors dealt with this,
yeah.
and also too, like you said, like being open, like are you open to learning?
Hmm.
Because if you, yeah, again, you think you know everything, you're not going to learn, and you're not going to ask the right questions,
Right.
so that's a really, yeah, man, like you're 100% spot on with that.
Yeah,
And
and I
yeah.
think it's been cool. So in our little kind of travel stage of life,
Mhm.
it was really cool. Like being in South America, we went to a lot of different other countries, and it's really cool to kind of see how other people do things. Like they don't
Mhm.
have all the fancy equipment. Can't
Yeah.
just like run to the store and be like, "Oh, I need this special tool that'll make this job easier."
Mhm.
They're like, "No, how can I make this work with what I have?"
Yeah.
And being around that and seeing that, like I love seeing that stuff
Mhm.
just because I don't know, it makes you like realize like, wow, okay, I can make anything work with what I have. Like you just have to like kind of think outside the box.
Mhm. Yeah, no, definitely, dude. Definitely. I mean, that's That's something that happens so often is that it's and it happens more often in our everyday lives, but I feel like people don't really like see it. Where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, like, like what do I have? Like we see it as maybe like, oh, um, you know, oh,
Mhm.
I ran out of milk, so I got to use this other thing instead. Or like, oh, I got it. But like, this is like something totally different. It's like, this is something where it's like, okay, you got to build, and you're not going to have the instructions because there are no instructions. If there are instructions, it's different for each situation. Now, yeah, now you have to use like, okay, well, what do we got? We got a hammer, we got a box of nails, we got a screwdriver. We have one battery for a drill gun.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we have one battery. How much power we got? Enough to fill it once. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. Now it's like rationing that,
Yeah.
and figuring that out, and then even like blacksmithing. You know what I mean? Like I know you learned blacksmithing. You know what I mean? And it's like that's actually something I wanted to do when I was a kid. I wanted to be a blacksmith, and then I
That's
found
awesome.
out that that's not really a thing. So I became a
It's
digital
not.
blacksmith. Yeah, it's like, well, it is a thing, but it's like, well, Dave, you're not going to be hammering swords for, the Crusades. That happened 3,000 years ago. You know what I mean? But it's like, but having to, like those kinds of skills are something that, I feel are not really there anymore, and those are the different hobbies or the different skill sets where you would learn that. Where it's like, well, I don't have the best steel right now. I gotta just use this banged up crap that I have in the corner and to make a clasp for a lock or something.
Hmm.
It's I mean it's cool, dude. It's
Well,
really
that's
cool.
what's cool. So my knives that I've made, um,
Hmm.
and the kids have made their own knives as well.
Which is so
But
cool.
we took it off. There was an old like combine harvester that was just rusted out in between two trees on the property
Hmm.
that they just left. And
Yeah.
I went and I cut off like some. There were some of the like rods that were holding the gears on, so I knew it had to be like decently hard steel.
Yeah.
And I cut some pieces off that, and you can like kind of spark test it to see
Hmm.
the hardness.
Yeah.
Anyways, and that's what we made our knife out of. So like we made our knife out of trash that got left on the property that was just going back to the earth. So it's like cool to be able to kind of like repurpose
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah, and I feel that's a whole big part of the off-grid experience, or even just like our nature, like how, like, or just nature in general, like how we used to be one with the planet, right? And how it was like, okay, like, we're gonna use this again in some way, or we're going to repurpose this instead of now, it's like, okay, cool, so let's just buy a new one.
right, that
It's
throwaway
like, well,
society now.
yeah, man. I mean, even I think about like shoes. Like there used to be. I think I thought about this the other day because I wear a lot of boots. I just love boots, and I'm like, you used to be able to go and like get these resold and get them recrafted and just fixed up, and then you just keep using same pair of boots. Whereas like
Yep.
now, a shoemaker is kind of dying off. Like a lot of these vocational careers are kind of just dying off. And so this off-grid living could be almost like a revitalization of what we're doing, or like what we used to do and doing now, again.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's
Yeah.
why the we started a private ministry association
Mm-hmm.
or a
Yep.
PMA, and
Mm-hmm.
it's called Forgotten Ways Ministries.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what our homestead operates from. But what is cool is kind of what you were saying is the Forgotten Ways Ministry. It's like taking a step into the forgotten ways of the past to
Mm-hmm.
secure the future. Um,
Yep.
because we are kind of that like pivot point where it is we have forgotten so many skills, like all these skills that people used to have. I don't know what, probably the 60s, like it
Yeah.
skipped our parents generation
Mm-hmm.
because of convenient stuff. Things
Yep.
started becoming that throwaway culture. We didn't need to fix
Mm-hmm.
stuff anymore, and then like all these like cool skills got kind of forgotten.
Yeah.
um, and it's wild. So that's why that was part of the reason I got into the blacksmithing. just another kind of passion project because I it blows my mind that people used to make houses, building structures, carriages, all this stuff without like my hand tools, without like my battery powered tools. Like
Yeah.
these people used to, it's crazy.
Well, that's like even when I see the blacksmithing videos, because I mean I will watch Forged in Fire like all the time, just while I'm like
Yeah.
cooking or something, right? And the thing is that we have these presses where just quickly you have this hydraulic like and then all of a sudden everything's like all nice and straight. Back in the day, these dudes are literally taking sledgehammers and banging the steel or banging the iron, right? And like, making it harder and turning into steel and then shaping it into carriages, into spokes for a wheel or, whatever it is. And it's just like, dude,
Yeah.
like
It's mind blowing.
how'd you guys do this? And then I
Right.
even think about like some of those scenes like Lord of the Rings with like the dwarves and they're all like swinging and like in sync. And I've seen that where it's like three or four guys with sledgehammers hammering something to the ground, and I'm like, oh my god, they did like a synchronized thing
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's so cool. But that's again forgotten, and I loved when you guys made that ministry. I remember when Louise told me about that, and when you guys made it public and then talking about it, and I was like, that's what we need. Like again, I always think New Earth, right? Like, what are we doing? And to me, that's what we're doing. We have to
Yeah.
go. I say forwards and reverse. And it's like you got to go back to go forward. Because if you don't go back, right, it's like, well, we keep going forward, but we're forgetting all these important things, and then we're gonna wake up. It's gonna be like Wally, right, where
Oh, yeah.
everybody's everybody's sitting in the chair and watching TV,
Yeah.
and you got Hal 2000 telling you like, I'm afraid I cannot do that, David. That's the thing. Like I always think back to like I'm like you know what I mean. Like I always go back to Skynet. You know what I mean? Or I
Oh,
always go
yeah.
back to I'm like, dude, I don't want us to forget all these things. Like
Right.
and being with me like teaching animation, and I was teaching when I was 19 in college and all that stuff. And when I got hooked up with a high school before I met you guys with Kongan, is that I was teaching a vocational program in a high school for animation, and they wanted to take all of the vocational programs and make them a little bit more like a math class or a social studies class. And I'm like, how are you doing that? Like, you expect to give these kids handouts and for
Yeah.
them to learn hands on things. And I'm like, I always knew that the public school system was just not with it, but as an outsider infiltrating, I I saw a lot of things, and I was like, wow, like we can't do this. Like I told Paige, I'm like, no. I'm like, no. Kids are never going to school, dude. like I'm like, I will teach them at home. I don't care what I gotta do. I'm like, I'm not, this is just not good. It is not
No.
going in a good direction. And so it's very admirable that you guys picked this up and that's what you're doing. And I commend you as an amazing father, and Louise being an amazing mother, taking this upon yourselves to be like, hey, we need to course correct here, and really embodying that, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Even today, right? I was hanging out with the girls, and we were doing some math or something, and one of the solar panel arrays wasn't producing as much solar as it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
So then I told the girls, I was like, "Hey, this is how many watts the panels should be producing." Or well, like I told them each panel's wattage. I had them add
Yeah.
it up. I had them tell me how much power we weren't producing,
Mm-hmm.
and then I took them out there, and we literally took the whole array apart. I was showing them the multimeter. We checked each
Mm-hmm.
panel, found the issue, plugged it back up. Um, so it's cool. Like when you teach your kids at home, it's important to kind of like have patience and kind of take
Mm-hmm.
the extra time to stop and explain to them what you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, and that's how we kind of teach our girls. I mean, it's a lot of hands on.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of them seeing. seeing me work and asking, Daddy, what are you up to? Or like, what are you doing? Can I help? And then you're like, yes, for sure. I'd love for you to help me. And then finding accomplishable jobs for them to like feel good about themselves and know that they're like contributing to the homestead, contributing to building the house,
Hmm.
um, contributing to the garden, like in producing food. So
Oh yeah, no, dude, I see them out there all the time. Like they're just picking food and growing stuff, and then you guys are even having them do the business right with the loofahs. The like
yeah,
the loofah bit. I was like, dude, they're selling loofahs. I'm like, this is awesome. You know what I mean? I'm like, they're, but like that's the thing though and I don't know the exact numbers, but I remember hearing this and I was reading it is that, back in the early 1900s, it was something like 85% of the food was produced in the home, and like I think it was like 80% of people or something worked for themselves, their own businesses and all that. I feel like business has been this it's become this with college, of course, right? It's become this overcomplicated thing where it
hmm
just, we're overcomplicating business. It's tough, right? It's not the easiest thing, but it's not hard either, and it's not impossible to learn. So it's like,
right.
having that entrepreneurial mindset and putting it into our kids, telling them like, yeah, you can sell your art. Yeah, you can actually make a loofah business. Like you can actually here, like we're gonna grow this food and then we're gonna go have a farm stand. And you're gonna charge people money for the food. You know what I mean? Like if you wanted to do that, it's like you could totally
Yeah,
do that. And like that's something I feel like a lot of our kids again like are not experiencing. And even to think that, I mean, dude, when I saw your youngest one hammering away with you blacksmithing, I was like, dude, this girl who's like, 3 feet tall is
yeah.
like over there hammering and like grinding a knife right now. And then,
So
all doing all that stuff. I'm like, this
yeah, it was
is
awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
she's 8, and yeah, she's like small for 8, and to be sitting there swinging a hammer, like, but she actually like gets it,
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
and it was so funny because she's sitting there pounding the hammer. Um, I had them draw out, so they drew out their knife on paper first,
Yeah.
like what they
Yeah.
wanted their knife to look like, and then
Mhm.
we hammered it out, and we take turns hammering because it's
Yeah.
tired. It is tiring.
Oh, well, yeah,
Um,
no, of course.
but it's hilarious. So she looks at me and she said, "Daddy, this is a great way to take out aggression." And I was like, "Baby girl, you're 8. What aggression do you have?" And she's like, "No, I mean, I'm just saying it like is good."
She's like, "I don't know, I hear you guys say that, like, I figure, that's what you say when you do these things, right?"
Right. It
That's
was like it was
yeah.
hilarious though. Just the
Yeah,
things
yeah,
that
yeah. That's so cool, man. But like that's the thing, it's so cool. And even to go into just like the creativity of things, right? And being creative and using things like the blacksmithing and the business building and learning how to work on a solar panel, like all these things take a tremendous amount of creativity. And I personally feel that, especially being a teacher, like pretty much like for most of my adult life, I'm just like I have noticed a decline in creativity in young people, and you know, from what I could tell, it's probably because of the way that we have them all locked up inside, not doing anything. It's like you're sitting in like I like the one scene in Hocus Pocus, with the witches, when they're like, "Oh, what is this? A prison for children?" Like this is amazing. I was like, "Wow, you know, it's spot on, dude."
oh yeah.
And just like taking and everything's gray. It's terrible, gray or brown. It's horrible. But it's like pulling that creativity out. And so you know, like how has creativity kind of like impacted you guys every day? And again, like designing things like the enclosures and like showing your girls how to do these things, and the problem solving, which you even just told me about the problem solving with the solar panels. That's a crazy cool thing, and maybe just expand on it just more, like how you see that creativity kind of blossoming from them.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I definitely think you're spot on with the schooling. I think
Hmm.
even the culture just not um, shutting down creativity because there's none of that problem solving. It's not like I have a problem. What's the solution? The solution's like,
Mhm.
I don't know, go tell somebody that I was offended, and then they're just gonna like shut it out. It's not like let's communicate, let's work this out.
Mhm.
Like they
Yeah.
don't give kids that edge. So I think a lot of the I think a lot of the creativity comes a lot from traveling. Like I said, I think
Mhm.
kind of like summing up everything too. This day and age, we kind of like a lot of things are overcomplicated in the
Mhm.
house. The way we think everything works, like everything's like such a mystery. Like
Mhm.
now, an example when we were in, I think it was Costa Rica or another. We like South America a lot, but
Yeah.
I went in and they had this urinal and they had a copper tubing going across the top of the urinal, and they literally just drilled some holes in it into flush. That you had a little valve, and you just
Huh.
turned the valve on for a second, and it flushed. And then you went over to the sink. Like that wasn't fancy. That was just basic. But when you see
Yeah.
it, you're like, oh, that's simple and functional. Like,
Yeah.
and then you go over to the sink, and they literally took copper tubing and they wound it up all cool looking, and then had the two spouts coming out. But the same, like, just a little regular shop valve was how you like turned it on, but it looked really cool because they did this cool
Yeah.
little like pattern looping. And you're like, wow, like something so simple but elegant. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think a lot of that, yeah, I think a lot of the creativity just comes with that. And then seeing as like, I don't know, like we talked about earlier, that kind of people in other countries and stuff just use what they have.
Yeah.
There was another town in Chile, and literally the whole entire town was made of cob. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever because, like, I've been interested in cob as well. I like the natural
Mhm.
building materials,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and, and literally the whole entire town was cob. But because they had the perfect like soil for it, so they had
Mhm.
these big places making big cob bricks. Like the
Yeah.
streets were lined, all the fencing and everything was all cob structure with like cool glass work in it,
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
was
yeah.
amazing. So, but they used the resources they had. So I
Mhm.
kind of try to, like I said, I before I go buy anything, I kind of try to either make it or use what I have, and
Yeah.
that kind of like switches your mindset a little bit.
Mhm.
That's also kind of how I like came to figure out what I want to purchase and everything to be off grid. Like I have a sawmill, a welder, the blacksmithing, and the reason
Mhm.
I got all that is to be able to create on the property. Like if I need to build a
Yeah.
structure, guess what? I can cut my own wood. I
Mhm.
can make my own nails. My nails still aren't pretty. I heard it takes a really long time to get that art down of
Yeah.
making a nail, but
Yeah.
but I could if I needed to.
But it works.
Right. So I think just that, just yeah,
Just really, like, getting in there, just doing it, and just being like, "You know what? We're gonna take this simple thing and make it look cool."
yeah.
And
I
then
mean,
that's yeah.
even our pig enclosure. So one of our pig houses,
Yeah.
um, we had a bunch of wood from kind of clearing our driveway, like a bunch of small timber. And
Mhm.
we took all that timber
Yeah.
and we had some extra T posts. So we put four T posts in and we literally like built like a little some log cabin walls for them, just stacking this like, I mean, these inch to 3 inch diameter like logs and just stacked them in there
Yeah.
until we had this like cool looking log cabin wall for the pigs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dude, well, that's the thing, like, that's cool. I even thought about when you were doing the pig harvest, and you put, just, like, some, like, basic, like, what was it, like, wood or, like, a metal sheet just in the middle of just like, "Okay, yeah, so, like, we built out, like, the thing,
Yep.
here's where they're gonna go, and then I just put this thing in here with these latches,
Yep.
and so it doesn't go anywhere." Like, they
Yeah.
push on it, it doesn't move. It's like but it's so simple, but
Right.
if you I feel like if you would to tell, like, maybe a 16 or 17 or 18-year-old and be like, okay, cool, like, you got to build this thing, or like, you got to like figure out how to stop the pigs from getting out, they might stop and be like, I don't know, I don't know. It's like,
Yeah.
well, you have these things. It's kind of like the show, like, like MasterChef, or even like Forged in Fire, where it's like, okay, like, you show up, here's all the materials you got, figure it out,
Right.
and then that's kind of going back to that like FOI muscles, or I'm sorry, FIO muscles, right? The figure it out muscles, right? And
Mhm.
working those, because even with me, I've noticed that when I was teaching, and so I would teach you all the tools, right? So you know how to use all the stuff. Like, I showed all the kids how to do whatever, right? I said, okay, you know how to use this, and this. They'd say, oh well, Mr. Coletti, how do you build how do you make an environment? I'm like, well, I gave you all the tools. Like I showed you how to do it. I'm like, you just do it, right? And they'd be like, well, but like, how do you do it? And in today's society of like everything is a tutorial. There's tutorials everywhere, YouTube
Mhm.
videos everywhere. They want to know the exact formula of how to execute the thing. Whereas again, if you have a hammer and nails and some wood, you could you could build so many things. And I think
That's
it's that
perfect.
it's like the everyone needs, like they want the exact formula. That's kind of like the math taught these days and all that. It's like this is the formula, that's what you got to do. But
Yeah.
yet none of that applies to, you know, fixing solar panels or, building a pen. You
Yeah.
know,
That's
it's
crazy. You
it's
got to
great. Yeah.
crazy. And I got to see that firsthand.
Oh
Just
yeah.
that, like, please tell us what to do. I'm scared. I'm gonna
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know how to do it, and I don't want to fail to try. Or
Well, yeah, like yeah, well, exactly though, and even to the point where, so I would do this exercise where I would say, okay, guys, so you know, and again, looking up reference images, all that kind of stuff, it's important whenever you're recreating stuff. So I would tell them, I said, okay, um, all right, guys, so we're gonna model a environment. It's kind of like a test. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give you a topic, and you just have to make something that fulfills that topic, right? So if I said pirate ship, right, and that was the topic, you had to go and make something that has to do with pirate ships, right, or
yeah.
pirate themed, whatever. So I said fairy tale. I'm like, okay, so fairy tale, go. They like looked at me, like, but that's too general. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, but you just said fairy tale. Like, there's so many things that are fairy tale. I'm like, but I said I just thought about like 9 things.
Right.
I'm like, how, like, you guys didn't get that. And like, here's the thing, I love my students, love my kids, and it's not their fault. You know what I mean? Like, it's not their fault for why this is the way it is. But
Mhm.
it's something that I think is just, it keeps coming up again and again and again. And it's also with adults too. It's not just kids, but it's young adults too. I feel like the craftsmanship and the creativity is kind of, it skipped, like you said, it kind of like skipped a generation, you
Yeah.
know. And I'm big into ancient history, so even like looking at what we, Renaissance and then modern art. I've never been to the MoMA. I'm not going. I don't support modern art. I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, this is just money laundering. But that's a whole nother podcast. I'm like, that's a whole nother podcast, man. But I look at that, I'm like, guys, come on, like, what happened? Where'd it go? So
Yeah.
yeah, man.
Yeah. That's fine. Well, at least they got you to kind of challenge him a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, dude, it was working at the school. I mean, again, like, and I'm gonna be somewhat politically correct here. The only reason why I was let go really was for human sovereignty, for standing up for human sovereignty at a time where nobody wanted to stand up for human sovereignty. Um,
Right.
but the thing is that I love my kids. I taught them a lot. I enjoyed every minute of it, and I know that they really appreciated what I did for them. And yeah, I mean, it is, but I think about it where I'm like, okay, sometimes you only have like one good teacher in your whole school career. So like that was my thing. I'm like, I want to make sure that these kids leave with some sort of practical knowledge and deeper thought into things. And so, I think
That's all.
I achieved that, but it's, that's why, like, I really appreciate you and what you do, especially for your girls. Like, that's just, and again, like, that kind of transitions into the whole, like, I guess healthy masculinity. It's like we have this toxic masculinity, and that's what everybody talks about, toxic masculinity, which I guess it's out there, right? But it's not just a buzzword. But I just, like I said in the beginning, like I feel like you embody this divine feminine. I'm sorry, this divine masculine, and then with the divine feminine kind of coming in, and everybody kind of coming together now, and I feel like the family system is slowly getting repaired from what we've been through, and so it's cool seeing you teach them, teach your girls and Louise too, like being a providing husband, and like just teaching them how to defend themselves and survival skills and all that kind of stuff. It's cool.
Yeah. No, I think that's yeah, I think that is such a big kind of topic, that toxic masculinity and everything. And I think
Hmm.
that, yeah, I like how you said the healthy masculinity, because it is just that kind of getting back to that family structure where the man is kind of providing. It's kind of unique too, because a lot of people think the masculinity is kind of being the financial support for the family too, but we're kind of
Hmm.
switched on that aspect where Luis is more of the income producer.
Hmm.
I'm doing the more day to day things, but then I think, yeah, I think that masculinity is just kind of doing what needs to happen for your family without
Hmm.
feeling the need for some kind of recognition or anything. Like my family is never once like, we don't run out of water, we don't run out of power. Like I'm the one that's taken, while we're building our castle, we're kind of staying in our RV for right now, but like I'm
Hmm.
the one that gets rid of the waste. Like
Hmm.
nobody, like my whole goal is to make sure that they are comfortable on a day to day basis, that whenever they need anything, it's provided for them. And a lot
Hmm.
of times that's me running around the farm doing whatever I need to do. Like I don't think they know half of the things I do on a day to day basis. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't ask like there's no. I mean, they're definitely grateful for it, but I'm saying
Yeah.
it's just taking that role of being the provider and making sure, like putting your family first, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, and then, like you said, yeah, then just teaching the girls and really, really kind of stepping up, and being there for them and teaching them things that you think are important. Whether that's, I mean, you don't have to
Yeah.
teach everything I'm teaching, but
Yeah.
just being like that active role in your parent in your kids' education and active role in their life, I think is that healthy masculinity.
Yeah, man. I mean, like when I again, like when I think of this, right? I just so like my dad, he never really like taught me things. You know what I mean? So it's like I mean, like paint the okay, we're gonna paint the shed, or here's a screw gun, here's how it works, that kind of stuff. But like especially when it came to like self defense, I had to learn self defense from more of him, more than having to combat people outside of my house, right? But the
Yeah.
thing is, it's like having you seeing you teach them the self defense skills, teaching the survival skills, how to figure it out if for whatever reason dad can't get there right now, and giving them the confidence, because I feel like that also bleeds into creativity, is like confidence, right? So if you don't have the confidence in yourself, then how the hell are you going to be confident in your creation? But then on top of that, even just the confidence in showing them like, hey, dad's away right now doing whatever. If some dude tries to attack me, I know how to throw an axe in his back, you know what I mean? So it's like it's so cool, like I see them doing that, and again, like my dad was a cop, he was a detective, and so I was like, okay, cool, so like we're gonna learn how to shoot guns, right? And he's like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. And it's like, oh well, I'm gonna learn boxing or something, right? It's like, no, can't do that. I'm like, what? Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like when I see you guys, and especially though too being off grid, I'm sure again I've heard about like bears roaming in, and you have like coyotes and all that kind of stuff. So it's just like, certain skills that maybe, you know, I wouldn't need to know being
Yeah.
in Long Island, right? You would need to know. But even with me going upstate and New York and everything, and like, getting into this whole type of thing, and it's just, again, it's nice to see that you're providing that confidence for your girls and showing them and being like, hey, you know, dad's got you,
Yeah.
and I'm going to teach you how to do this.
And that's what I yeah, it's funny because sometimes if we have guests over, I always remember, but I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
I definitely have my girls are very comfortable around firearms. They have been
Mm-hmm.
taught
Yep.
all the safety precautions. They know not to mess with it. And
Yep.
I think another thing is because they're not like locked up tight, it's not like daddy's thing, kind of like you were saying, like, I'm sure that
Yeah.
made you more curious when you were younger, right?
Oh yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you're like,
No, definitely.
yeah, it's that like, I don't know, it's that
It even
kid.
gave me anxiety. It gave me anxiety, like when he would leave his gun, like I don't know, just like on the floor or something. He's sitting down, he just got in because he would carry
Yeah,
everywhere again, being a cop. But the thing is that, like, he'd be like, "Don't touch my gun," right? Since I was a kid, it was don't touch my gun, right? So even now, I a little bit need to fight that, like, I can touch the gun. It's okay.
right.
Like, it's
Yeah,
my gun. I could touch
it's that
this.
yeah, it's that fear that like don't
Yeah.
yeah, never getting trained to like
Mhm.
properly just handle it instead of just saying like no, don't touch it, don't touch it. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I definitely get that, and that's what we wanted them to be comfortable with all that,
Mhm. Of course.
for sure. So it's yeah, like I said,
Mhm.
I have to like prep when I like
Yeah.
people come over and I'm like putting up all my guns everywhere. Like,
It's like,
make sure we're
girls,
safe.
no target practice. Don't scare
Right,
don't scare our guests, you
right.
know? It's like, again, like I was talking about, like, shooting bows and stuff. Like, I took up archery when I was a kid. I have a brand new bow that's sitting upstairs somewhere. It's like brand new compound bow. I'm like, I could probably adjust it for me. I was a pretty tall kid back in the day. I'm like, I'm sure
Yeah,
I'm not much different. I've just gotten older, but and my hair's gotten longer. But it's just like, I can never shoot it because my dad was like, oh, over here I got to go to a range, right? It's or
yeah,
he wanted me to go to range. I'm like, I'm not gonna miss. He's like, well, I don't trust you're not gonna miss. I'm like, well, I know I'm not gonna miss. I used to get
yeah.
Robin Hoods all the time. I'm like, I'm not gonna miss. But you know, it was like, okay, cool. So now I can't go to the range. So I lost kind of that skill of shooting a bow. And
Yeah.
because I'm in the suburban area, so I told Paige, I said, like, I don't want to live in a suburban area. I want to try and maybe find a more rural area. So, it's so natural to me to want to go outside and like shoot a bow or something. It's almost like tranquil in a way. So it's just like,
It
teach your
is.
girls and doing all that kind of stuff. It's like, hey, listen, it also teaches you to slow down, I feel,
Yep. Yeah.
you know?
No, it's amazing to see even their I don't know, kids are just so like receptive. Like their
Hmm.
form is so good. Like the form is by far better than my form just because they
Yeah.
like take what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely get that too. Even I mean, there was like a while where we were going and kind of throwing axes after dinner every night for like a couple weeks. But it's the same thing as the bow. It's kind of you're just in tune with your body.
Yeah.
You're kind of just I don't know. You're in the moment,
Hmm.
and it kind of slows everything down. So it is kind of that almost like a meditative.
Yeah.
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 So
It's like active meditation.
yeah,
It's active I mean, I even I when I first met Paige, I always said, because she was big into yoga and everything, I said, I'm like, yoga is just meditation. She's like, oh no, it's not. I'm like, this is when she first met me, right? She's like, no, it's not. What do you know? I'm like, listen, I lift a lot of heavy shit. You know what I mean, for fun. And I'm like, well, it's meditative for me too. And it's like, well, how? It's like, it just is. So
yeah,
it's like the gym, shooting a bow, throwing an axe, shooting a gun. It could be something that slows you down, and also too, you're not staring at at a blue screen, like a blue light all day long. You're out there, you're
Right.
using your eyes, you're feeling the wind, you're
Yeah.
getting the sun, you're getting your vitamin D, and it's just super cool. So I mean, it's nothing better, man. I love it. I love that
Oh
stuff. I got to get back to it.
no, I love shooting bow, and it's so funny because like I grew up in South Florida,
Okay.
in Fort Lauderdale, just like a
Mm-hmm.
beach town. So like I didn't really grow up shooting guns or
Mm-hmm.
bows or like that either. I mean, we used to go to my grandma's and she had woods, so I'd like get to shoot the BB gun. But like, I mean, I definitely didn't grow up in that rural environment. So it is like
Yeah.
as much as like I'm teaching my girls, like I am learning a lot of the animals, the garden, like all that stuff has been like this learning experience for me as well. So it's been nice having property that um, you can kind of do what you want to do on it. So
Yeah, I mean that's definitely something. That's definitely something big. Is that because I thought about this too. I was like, oh, like I wonder where he's from, and so yeah, like now hearing that you're from kind of a similar area to like where I'm from, just
yeah,
south. It's just like it's suburbs. I live 15 minutes from the beach, literally right here. You know, and it's just, yeah, I mean, you don't grow up in that, and then yet you learned all these things, and that's the cool part. That's the coolest part about being a human to be,
yeah,
is to like you can literally at any point in time, and I also think like this is a mindset thing, which I know we're going to be talking about on Saturday, is that it's just like this is a mindset thing where you can literally learn anything at any point in time, and even if like let's say you don't have money rolling in right now or whatever, it's like knowing that it's like, well, it's coming. I'm doing things, I'm learning things, it's going to bring it. And so it's just cool hearing that again, you're from a suburb, but
yep.
yet you learned all this shit.
Oh
Like
yeah.
you just went for it.
That's why I say you got to just
Yeah.
start doing it. I mean,
Mhm.
I always say too, people. I encourage people that want to go kind of like off grid or looking into like solar, and I was like, well, start at your house, start at your apartment, start wherever you can. Like,
Yeah.
make a little solar setup for like a deep freezer in your garage,
Yeah.
or do something like that. Like while you have all the comforts of like grid power,
Mhm.
like mess around with it. Like that's the perfect time to learn and fail, because then you're not like, don't just, I was encouraged, take those baby steps. Don't just move off
Yeah.
grid and camper and be like, I'm going to learn all these skills, because life is going to be really hard for a
Yeah.
for a little while, you know?
Dude, that's like I can then that's the thing, like that's why like I was talking about like it being this like romanticized thing online, because I could just see it now. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna move off grid. I'm just gonna go off grid. I'm gonna get this land. I'm gonna go live off grid. And then you go off grid, and it's like, oh my god, there's bears out here. you know? It's like there's bears out here, man. Like there's wait, what? It's like, yeah, there's wolves in this area. There's wolves. What? I thought, what? Since when? It's like, oh yeah, yeah, no, there's wolves here. It's like you're in Montana, miss. It's you know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go on Facebook Marketplace, go buy some land, and then it's like, oh, wait, you mean like I can't just grow my garden here? I have to the soil's dead? It's like, oh. It's like, so where I know I'm off grid, but where's the power part? Where
Right.
does so like they're gonna run me a line, right? It's like, no, you gotta you're
No, you're
you're
on your,
you're off, man. It's like, did you pick a
yeah.
piece of land that has some sort of water flow? It's like, I need that. It's like, yes, you do. You know,
Oh, for
you,
sure.
you
Yeah.
got you
And
got
you're fine.
7 days, bro. You don't get water, I don't know what to do for you. And it's yeah, man. It's definitely it's so cool, but yet it is a learning curve, and to take those baby steps and to really say like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. I'm in my house, it's great. Even just like grow a garden. Just learn how to do hydroponics, like just learn something.
Yeah.
That's
No,
something
for
you could do. I used to do that. That's the one that, that's actually, like my dad, my great grandfather, my grandmother, she still gardens, my grandmother, you know what I mean? And I was fortunate enough to be around my great grandfather who was born in 1913, you know what I mean? So it's like he's that generation, right? Where it's like he was still on the old side, but then transitioned into the newer stuff. And so it's like, but he never ate McDonald's or any of that, like he was growing
no,
plants in the backyard. He was growing tomatoes in his house. He was doing the, covering them and doing all that stuff and
that's
jarring
awesome.
tomatoes, you know what I mean? So it's like I was lucky enough that I got to learn from him like some
Yeah.
things where it's like it's familiar to me. I'm like, okay, like I can figure this out. But my brother and my
Right.
sister, I don't think that, they would have a lot more questions than I would about doing that. And so it's just interesting how, I mean, I'm 27, so it's like, okay, I'm 27 right after me. I mean, people started, you know what I mean? Like started really kind of going down, the younger kids and everything. And I think TikTok and Instagram is great though, because here's the thing though, right? Is that it's cool. I mean, if you're not watching people dancing, but it's cool, right? Because you're on there and I'm on there and Callie's on there and Jesse's on there. It's like
Mhm.
everybody is kind of, like there's a lot of people who are on there who are doing these things, so at least there's something you could
Yeah.
learn. If you wanted to look on social media, you can learn,
Right.
and see others' examples. So that's definitely cool. It's a cool part
I
about
think
it.
I think a good kind of practice is if so like I definitely know some people that are like YouTube scholars. And
Yep.
what I mean by that is they know like a little bit about everything, but they've never implemented any of it.
Yeah.
Kind of like we were saying, like the um oh, I just blanked. Anyway, what I was saying is I think
Yeah.
it's so important. There is a lot of good information on there, but
Mm-hmm.
you have to kind of like practice it. So if you go and
Yeah.
like learn something, like go mess around with it.
Yeah.
Because YouTube, oh, that's what I was thinking. We were talking about earlier, YouTube always the romanticizing, but they also make everything look so easy.
Oh yeah.
It's like edited film, so it's like
Mm-hmm.
they do something and it like looks like it was this simple thing. They're like, you just do this or sprinkle this eggshells on this plant and it grows like a weed, and then you do it and you're like, the heck, that didn't work at all. So like,
It's like I don't understand. Where to
yeah,
go? What
where did it
happened?
go wrong?
Oh, dude, that's yeah. No, but you're right about that. Is using the discernment at who you're listening to, and then yeah, it's one of those things where I remember when I was a kid and I'd watch people would do like 3D modeling, but they would do like speed modeling and then it would be sped up. So here I am, I'm just like, oh my god, they're working so fast. But it's like no, it's sped up. That took like 20 hours, bro.
Yeah,
And that's the thing is that you see these people and they're like, yeah, 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 I'm gonna go and I'm gonna build my cabin here. I'm gonna strip all these logs. It's like okay, cool. It's like, yeah, 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 I could do that. He did it in like, it looked like a day. It's like, bro, it took him like 2 weeks, man. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's called editing.
yeah,
It's and even people when they're learning how to use, like someone would be, oh, dude, that's easy. You just take this and you do that, whatever. I'm like, yeah, yeah, making Star Wars is easy. You just take some sticks and a metal rod and then you make it glow and then that's it. You're good. Like you just do that and you're solid, bro. It's like there's a whole middle part there that we're all missing,
oh,
and that's yeah, it's crazy, dude. It's yeah. There's just one
yeah.
couple I
Wow.
think of in particular who, I watch sometimes and I'm like they get millions of views every video. And I'm just like, guys, you're living in British Columbia. You got a pizza oven. You got like elevated floors and like elevated gardens and all this stuff. I'm like, this is you guys have been doing this for a long time, but it's like, I mean, I don't know, man. It's like people look at that. I'm like, you're shipping things in and you're doing all this stuff. I'm like, you're basically just might as well go live on the grid, man. At that point, you
Right.
know. But
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
sounds like with those people, like you don't have their full like backstory either.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, you have no idea how much money did they come from, what do they do, it's like HGTV, like when you watch all that. It's like, yeah, I my husband breeds reptiles and I train seals. We have a budget of $5 million. It's like like what? It's like I don't understand. It's like South Park when they made fun of HGTV and Randy's
yeah,
remodeling the houses. But I'm like, dude, you have no idea where these people came from. Like that,
right,
unless you go all the way back. But who's going all the way back? And even if they showed all the way back, and then
right.
that kind of comes like, and then that even kind of comes up to like you guys, where it's like, you guys come from humble beginnings here, and doing what you had to do and getting things done and learning and all that.
Yeah, and um, I've been blown away with um, how much even taking raw land, like how much money it's cost to take raw land and kind of even turn it into like we don't even have our house built yet, but
Yeah.
just to turn it into what we have so far.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's unreal. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean we're bringing in rock constantly to like set buildings on and level stuff and
Mm-hmm.
put pads up and yeah, all that stuff. Um, yeah, it definitely costs quite a bit for turning raw
Yeah.
land into something.
Yeah. No, I mean, I could imagine again, like, because like I look at the sawmill, all that kind of stuff, people don't think about it. It's like that stuff costs money. And
Yeah,
just like, moving things around and all that and whatever, like, buying cars and, like solar panels are expensive. People don't even think about that. I'm like, solar panels are stupid expensive. The batteries are even more expensive.
oh yeah.
So it's like, dude, if one of those batteries goes down, it's like, I got to get a
I
new one.
That was another mistake I made early on.
Yeah.
I found this deal on some batteries, these used batteries, at
Deal.
this little shop in the middle of nowhere, and I was like, "Oh, I scored! This is going to be great." Up in my battery bank, we're going to have power for days. Then, fast forward, I went to Texas to learn how to build with hempcrete,
Yeah. Yeah.
and of course, while I'm gone, two of the batteries in the bank went bad, and you have this massive battery bank, and when two batteries go bad, it literally affects the entire bank.
Yeah.
So then Louise is like roughing it out here. My
Mm,
wife's roughing it with the kids on her own because she's like, the batteries aren't holding a charge. And I was like, well, I can't troubleshoot it. I'm in like
yeah.
a few states away. Like, I can't just come home and like
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah, it's definitely been one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that you can pick up panels for pretty good prices now. I
Okay.
would definitely recommend go secondhand.
Mm.
Um, I know I got like a pallet of panels off an old Amazon warehouse for like $65 a panel,
Okay. That's
and
pretty
these
good.
things, yeah, like super cheap. I mean, I got like
Yeah.
30 panels for the price that I spent on six brand new ones. Um,
Yeah. It's crazy, dude.
and in my head, I'm thinking, even if they're not like, yes, they have like a kind of time frame when they start kind of producing less, but
Yeah.
all these panels are still producing like 90%. Well,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I mean, anywhere from like 75 to 90. But like, it was worth it for me. So the
Mm-hmm.
used market, if you're looking for panels, I would recommend kind of trying to find a used
Yeah. Yeah.
panel.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, I mean that's pretty good advice for those listening. Is that like definitely go used. I mean, what not that I actually even thought about. I just thinking of it now. Like people putting solar, which I think it's like I think it's kind of sketchy putting solar on like regular on grid houses. Because of course my brain goes to conspiracy land. But I'm just like do so those panels have kind of like a shelf life where it's like they will start producing less, I'm sure, over time. Granted, these people are probably not producing nearly as much power as like maybe some people, but like you know eventually those panels will go dead, like or they'll just start really like declining.
Yeah, I mean, I've been using them. Uh, yeah, I mean, I think they might have like a 30-year life. I mean, it's a pretty
Okay,
long
yeah,
lifespan.
yeah. It's long, but yeah.
Yeah. So, but if I what I'm getting at is even picking them
Yeah.
up used at $65 a panel.
Yeah.
Even if they went down to 50%, I'll just double them up,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
still
No, yeah,
like
no, I mean, that makes perfect sense.
yeah.
But
But yeah, I think if you're trying to do something like on grid, like I said, it's best to kind of do like your I don't know a separate setup.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I was thinking about that because like there's so many people that I see getting the solar panels, and I've had friends that like sold them and stuff, and they were like, oh yeah, like it's kind of sketchy in a way, and I'm like, yeah, and I think about it because like the lights flicker even over here. I don't have solar panels on my house, my lights are flickering. I'm like, hey, I'm on grid, dude. Like, what are you doing? Like I watch the street lamps, they flicker. I'm like, hmm, okay, I see you. So it's like at what point do they say, well, you see, we're gonna have to rely on the solar panels for a few days and lay off the grid, and we're gonna have to kill your power. So, here, use these like 5 solar panels on your roof, placed in really bad locations, because that's just how it is. And
Yeah,
hopefully, you have enough power, dude. For a couple days, we have a terrible heat wave. It's crazy. I don't know. I don't know how that
yeah,
happened. So I I think about that. I'm like, okay. Like I told my mom, I'm like, do not get solar panels. She's like, really? I said, yeah, no, don't do it. I'm like, if we go somewhere else, and maybe, but like, I'm like, I don't trust it.
right.
I'm like,
No,
use. I'm like, use them. Like, you're already paying for electricity. Just use them, okay? Like,
yeah,
don't get this other thing.
no, I remember I contacted when I was out in California. I contacted one of those solar companies
Yeah,
looking to get one of those. It's when the
yeah,
Tesla battery first came out, the Powerwall.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I I I am off grid, but I'm definitely like I don't like the new smart tech, but I definitely like
Hmm.
stuff like that. So anyway, I
Yeah.
called this solar company and I was asking them some questions. Um, and I was like, cool, well, like I can use the Powerwall like is my primary, and I wanted to use the grid as a backup. And they're
Hmm.
like, no, that's not how it works. The Powerwall only activates when you lose power. And I was like, hold on. I was like, why wouldn't it be the primary? And then when I lose battery power, go back. And they're like, sir, that's not how it works. So then I asked her, I said, ma'am,
Yeah.
what would happen if I go shut off my main breaker with the power wall kick on? And she saw what I was getting at, and she was like, sir, I can't answer that. And I was like, okay, okay, that's
Oh.
good to know. Because I'm like, that's ridiculous. Why are you going to pay? Why are you going to go like
Yeah.
those people charge an arm and a leg? I don't know.
Hmm.
For what?
And
Yeah.
that's what I was, and it's funny because that was my thought, where I was like, you know what? I'm like, well, first off, and this is before the batteries, when like there was really no. I'm like, so you guys are getting solar panels on your roof. I'm like, there's not even batteries to like store this power. So I'm like, what are you doing with it? And they're like, oh yeah, well, yeah, and like the selling point was, well, you see, we put them on during the day, and during the day they help your house, and then at night you switch to the grid. I'm like, oh, okay, like it makes sense. But now it's like I thought about it. I said, okay, wait, well, hold on. Well, how do you know what the house is using? How do you know what's switching to what? And then again, like now you're telling me, yeah, like they go, sorry, I can't answer that, sir. It's like, you, is that your final answer? It's like, yes, yes, that's my final answer. I'm sorry, I can't do that. I can't answer that. And you go, so that's the answer. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, miss. So, yeah. And then I think about it too. Like, even people got to get new roofs. They put like a whole new roof on their house, costs like 50 grand, it's like a whole new roof, shingles, all that stuff. Then it's like, okay, cool. Now we get the subsidized free solar panels, and then they don't even use them. The
Yeah.
house doesn't even use it. They're just sitting there. I talk about this sometimes, where I'm like the windmills that are like out in the middle of the ocean, right? I'm like,
Mhm.
working in schools. I understand now when you would go, so I ran a studio and I worked at a college at NYT, and I was looking and I'm like, they had all this tech. They had 3D printers and a mocap studio and all this stuff. I learned how to use mocap studio, and I ran that studio for a while. Um, but all like 3D printers and everything, before I got there, nobody was using it. They were all like covered in dust and like, what do you do though, right? You take a picture, right? Okay. Put it on Facebook, put it on the website. Look, guys, we have this new thing. I'm like, New York State, I don't even see the windmills turning. I'm like, they're just sitting there. They're not even on. So like, what did they do? Put them in, take a picture of it. Look, we now have alternative energy in these windmills. And then it's like, dude, like, are you even using those? It's like, well, no. I mean, we turn them on sometimes. It's like, but what,
Right.
like, you know what I mean? It's like, what was that for? And then like I see fields now, fields and fields of solar panels across the mountains, and I'm like, dude, and like the state's like buying up land from people who have too much land, and they're like, hey, would you sell us this like 20 acres spot of land you got here that's been in your family for generations that you just don't use? It's like, well, yeah, okay, I guess, sure. And then solar panels, and I'm like, I question, are they even on? Are
Right.
they even, or did you just take a picture of them? You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
it's crazy, man. All
No,
this
I got
stuff is nuts, and
you. Oh yeah.
oh yeah.
No. Yeah. That's what another topic we are.
Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast. It's another three
Yeah.
hours.
Well, that just made me think of, just to anyone listening, to look into, if you are buying land or you own land, um, look into land patents.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
it's kind of the, full ownership of the land.
Yeah.
And like I said, I won't get into a whole lot, but we are in that process currently of getting our land patent brought forward and into our name,
Nice.
which would make us the actual owners of our land. So that's pretty exciting too.
Oh, dude, like that's a whole nother thing that we'd have to get into, is talking about all that
Yeah,
stuff and how to like circumvent all these things that we think we need to do that we actually don't need to do at all, or
yeah.
that we can just skip over. And again, that's another podcast. But okay. But I wanted to talk to you though about it looks like you froze there. Are you there? Or are you just sitting really still? Looks like we're getting to see, like, all of a sudden, man, like we're not even online. We're recording this offline. Look, they're already trying to take us down. No,
You
you're
didn't even
good.
go into that much detail.
Yeah, no, all I brought up was certain things, man. That's it. My dissed solar panels, But so what I figure we should probably talk about too, right, before we go off on anything crazy, is Kangen, right? So that's how we met. That's what has done a lot for you guys, and is really allowed you, I guess, to live this life that you do live, and to build off of it. So how, like, I mean, how has Kangen impacted you guys, and what does it mean in your life? And just for those who are listening, if you don't know what Kangen is, I mean, we could tell you, but it's we work with Anagic. It's a Japanese company. They sell the world's best water ionizers. That is a fact. I will not defer from that. That is they're a great company. Beautiful people who run it. Japanese, just awesome. Big fan of anime. But it's yeah, it's brought us together, and it's beginning to bring me down the road of financial freedom and doing things for myself, working for myself. And then so Ryan, and again, as we said, Louise, they both head this Kong Award collective team that we're on. So yeah, Ryan, I'd love for you to chat about that.
Yeah, so we started, like I said, when I got out of the military, I kind of made a vow to myself that I wouldn't work for anybody else ever again.
Hmm.
So that led us down quite a few different things. We've had that bed and breakfast. We've had a brick and mortar. My wife has done some other kind of network marketing companies,
Mm-hmm.
and we found a Nagic through another friend. But as we were kind of traveling, we just kind of needed to keep funding our travel habits,
Yeah.
and I finally saw somebody kind of talking about a Nagic, and I looked further into it.
Mm-hmm.
And once I kind of saw the business model and kind of saw what it was all about, I was kind of like, holy shit, like this company has like really nailed it. I mean, they're like really looking out for the distributors. Like they have rigged this game kind of in our favor,
Mm-hmm.
not like some other companies, or like I said, maybe some other
Yeah.
network marketing company that kind of you have to jump through all these hoops, or you have to have all this monthly stuff, or all it comes
Mm-hmm.
with all this baggage. Like
Yeah.
Enagic was just like, this is the compensation plan, this is this, and then there's actually like a rank you can hit that kind of well, you hit the rank and you get $5,000 a month for life. Um, and kind of when I saw that too, I was like, okay, so there's an end game here. There's kind of that like work hard to that point, and then if you want to kind of throttle back a little, you can. Um, and I just thought that was like amazing, and kind of what we're gonna go into a little bit Saturday is kind of just the kind of the different mindsets, like the poor versus the rich mindset, and just kind of talk more about my past, where I've always kind of been that like hustler. I've always kind of
Mm-hmm.
looked for opportunities. Um, I mean, I wanted to buy like a rental house, and Louise is like super scared. My wife was like, I don't know if we should get a rental house. What if it doesn't work? And I was like, no, like
Mm-hmm.
we need to keep building assets. And that kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, that pushed us forward. So like, I've always had that mindset. And like I said, when I saw a Nagic, like I'm actually the one that kind of jumped into the company. Um, I'm the one that bought the products and started
Mm-hmm.
the Magic business with the intent. I had this like secret intent that like I needed to just keep it afloat until I like got my wife like seeing what I saw.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So like I got out there and was doing some stuff, and then had a couple sales, and my wife saw it and was like, "Oh wow, I see what you saw now." And I was like, "God, thank you." So then and then she took off with it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Magic has been an amazing company to work for. We've been in kind of that like health, um, that proactive health space for a long time. That
Yeah.
is kind of part of the reason the off-grid purpose too is to grow our own food, to
Mm-hmm.
process our own animals,
Yeah.
because we want clean food. We want
Oh no,
clean
of
food for us.
course. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No.
so yeah, so the Kangen kind of fit into that, like a water ionizer that had such good health properties, kind of fit in. And then, like I said, I joined for the business. My wife had wanted a Kangen machine for a long time, years, and finally, once I don't know, everything kind of like clicked. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're always where you're supposed to be and see the things you're supposed to see. So like we saw it, we started it, and like I said, we've built something really really awesome now. Just
Yeah.
a great community of kind of like-minded people like yourself, and that has entirely funded us like this whole entire off-grid project.
Yeah. No, that's. I mean, that's the thing. I remember. And that's a hell of a story too. And I remembered when I was gonna say I thought you got involved with it, and and that's it's always funny, right? Where it's like I do that too. I have like this plan, and I'm like, okay, she's gonna get it. I just gotta keep going,
Right.
you know. Like I always have that like it's a gigantic, really really convoluted like way of doing. I'm like telling you this is gonna work. Then it
Yeah.
does, and you're like, yes, yeah,
Right.
they got it,
Exactly.
nice.
Yeah.
It's like I totally didn't blow up in my face. It's excellent. But and yeah, I mean, like a Nagic. That's the thing. Like when we I found out about it through Paige, and what was funny is that so Paige found Biba, and Biba was, talking about it like, yeah, no bullshit business model, like, jump on, mess me, like, so like, going at it,
Kind
right?
of
Like,
just like,
yeah, like, she found her on an ex-vegan rabbit hole, like she was going down, and then Biba's just like, yeah, grow my own goats, and like doing her thing, right? And then so she's like, yeah, this woman Louise Milleman, she's awesome, like, and it was, and so then okay, now Paige is watching Louise and is watching Biba. At the time, last year, I was down in Florida visiting the guy I was working with at the time, which, again, I don't want to talk about that too much, but like, it was clearly that business I left, and, that business no longer exists. But the thing is that I was down there talking to him, doing all that kind of stuff, and then Paige just hit me with this, this a magic machine stuff, and she's trying to explain it to me over the phone. I don't. I'm like the compensation. I'm like I don't really understand, right? And then so she's like, well, I'll show you when you get back, right? So I said, okay. I didn't like some of the things that I saw when I was down in Florida. So a lot of things that I saw, and so I was like, you know what? I don't know if I could do this with this guy, right? So I'm like, well, and we were going to Disney with my family. So I came back because, they already got the tickets. They want to go. I said, okay, cool. I'll go to Disney. Why not? I like Star Wars. So, and Indiana Jones. So the thing
yeah,
is that we we went down there and she's telling me about it. We're watching the videos, all that. I'm kind of like, she's showing me, right? Like, what you were showing Louise, right? Where it's like, here's how it is, here's what it is, blah, blah. And I was telling her, I'm like, I really don't want to move to Florida. I'm like, I don't want to move to Florida, work with this guy. I'm like, I'm not feeling it. Like, and then so she gave me this, and I was like, okay. I broke things off in September, and she was already at that point talking to Louise about getting the machine and all that stuff. And then that's when we talked to you. And then I got to meet you, right? And so, and Biba, you know, who I think
yeah,
disconnected like halfway through. But the thing is that, it was like, okay, I'm like, I met you guys. I'm like, okay, so you guys really cool, really chill. And then on top of that, though, too, having the business model explained, all that stuff, and seeing your example, I'm like, these guys are literally using this company to do everything. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, this is crazy. And it made me feel a lot better about leaving that opportunity to then hop on this, because I was like, this is way cooler. And then I'm building my own stuff on the side too, just like how you guys are, and doing your thing aside
yeah,
from an addict. But it's just like, you know, to me, I'm like, this is the driving force behind. I'm like, I feel comfortable pursuing what I'm doing because I know a magic works, and I know that it's going to work even more so in my favor very, very soon. And so
right.
it's just like knowing that. But it's so cool though how you guys got into it. You know what I mean? And how it provides for you.
Yeah. I mean, I still, yeah, it's one of those things where you're like, you see other people doing it. And when you kind of start
Hmm.
getting that, I don't know, you just full of this gratitude. It almost seems you're like, okay, this is still happening. This is still working. This is still awesome. It's been a really cool ride. Um, yeah, I mean, it's been amazing, and I think one of the biggest things I like is the community, like the people that we have attracted and the people that we've had join us is like so awesome. Like like I say, we're doing that retreat coming up, and it's
Hmm.
such a good time. Like when you get everybody in the room and you realize it's like your people,
Yeah.
it's so awesome, and you're like, man, like yeah, like not that we brought everyone together. Everyone made their own
Oh yeah.
conscious decision to join, but it's cool to know like that all these people are in the same space and you guys are all kind of running together and
Hmm.
kind of yeah, building out your empire.
Yeah, dude. I mean, and that's the thing, yeah, like you guys did bring us all together, right? But, ultimately it's just, seeing you do it, seeing everybody else succeeding with it, and yeah, like I feel pretty much, and which this is something that normally I don't feel, right? Is that I feel pretty much comfortable 100% that I could go down certain rabbit holes, or I could talk about certain things, and you guys are going to get it. You're going to understand, you're going to see where I'm coming from, and we have similar values, similar morals, you know what I mean? And that's something that's really important to me, is having morals and having values. It's like, listen, like, we're not just let, we're not here to, you know, scam anybody or take anybody's money just to take it and all that stuff. It's like we're here to help people out. We are helping people out. We're providing them a real solution here. You know what I mean? And like that's something that we could all get behind. And again, like you have all of your skills. I have all my skills. Louise and Paige have all their skills. Callie and Biba and like the list goes on and on and on. We all come from these different sects of life, and yet we come in and it's like we could all find a home in this one thing and this camaraderie. And I know that like I can text you and be like, Ryan, I'm struggling with XYZ. And I know that you're going to be like, hey, what's up, dude? What's going on? Let's talk about it. You know what I mean? Same thing like Louise. Like, I could be like, hey, like, or anyone really, where it's like, if I reach out, there's somebody there who actually cares and actually wants to help you, or
Right.
actually, you know what I mean? So it's a really cool thing. And community is something that is, well, I should say it was fading, but I think that people are coming together once again in a very amazing way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I
Yeah, we're
mean,
kind of, we
yeah.
like to say we're kind of building that. There was a long time when we uh, were out there kind of protesting things and not wanting
Mm-hmm.
certain things to happen. And we were at the Capitol talking to senators, and it still goes through. Things still get passed. It's like you don't have a voice. So we've kind of made the transition into kind of like doing what we're doing is like our biggest form of protest that we can do, and we're no longer trying to fix the old system. We're trying to like build that new parallel system.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of what that's what we're all about.
Yeah, and that's why again I'm gonna say it again, New Earth. Right? New
Yeah,
Earth to me, that's what we're doing. This is what we're about. And that's what you're doing. That's what you're showing people how to do. Even like the hempcrete stuff, all that. It's all New Earth. We're here. We're here to stay. We're here to make it better. It's just the way it
yeah,
is.
yeah,
And doing things. Again, getting away from that corporate kind of side of things, and everybody working like regular 9 to 5s, and slogging it through, like for me, it's like Manhattan, right? It's like slogging it through the subway, dodging, just whatever's getting thrown, whether it be a coffee or you don't want to know what it was. Food basket. You know what I mean? It's like, so it's to see that there are these options out there. It's awesome. And to be a part of one of those options to me is a deep honor. And again, I am forever grateful for it. So,
yeah.
thank you for doing what you do. And thanks for, holding out long enough for Louise to be like, I got you. you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Well, that's
dude.
yeah. It really ties back into everything. This is when you were saying that people kind of trucking just with their 9 to 5, like
Mm-hmm.
having a vehicle like a Magic, like I guess that's kind of the first step because that's allowed us to stay home and be with the kids,
Yeah.
allowed us to do what we're doing, allowed me to develop skills and learn things and build, and it's just so important. And especially, I think if anything, just getting your kids, like we were talking about this whole time, getting the kids out of school because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that is just a little brainwashing camp for the most part.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there's one thing you could do to get your kids out of school, but a lot of people say I can't do that because I gotta pay the bills. Well, here's a good business model for you that you can stay home. So yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. And it's true though, like there's always an excuse, right? But the thing is that there's an answer to that. Like it's like, okay, that's a question really. It's like, well, how am I going to take care of the kids? Right? It's like, well, how am I going to provide? It's like there's an answer to that. Excuse, I feel like, is like a closed statement where, like you said, people don't want to learn, or people don't want to be
yeah,
open to learning. Where it's like asking the question of like, well, how can this provide for my kids? And it does, and we have proof right here, right? We have proof with so many other people that you don't have to just do whatever they say you should do, and you can go and do your own thing, and that's
right,
perfectly okay. And you can do it whenever you want. So,
yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
brother.
just know that just take action, and you got to just trust that you will make it work. Because like
Mm-hmm.
we had zero plan when we left California and I got out of the military. Like
Mm-hmm.
no set income, and then that thing kind of happened with the bed and breakfast that didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
We were down there for a year. Once again, back to no plan, but you make it work. Like, and that's what I think people that's a hard leap to take, just to like trust that you're going to be able to like make it. But
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That is a leap. I mean, that's why they call it, right, a leap of faith. I mean, that's really literally what it is.
right,
You're literally having to believe in whatever it is that you're doing is going to work out. And
yeah,
the truth is that if you don't believe, well, then it's not going to work out. You have to
right,
believe. Like you have to. If you don't believe it in your core, it's like it's just not going to work, man. And
yeah,
so it's a great way to leave off, I feel like. you
yeah,
know
for sure.
is this it's what it is. It's awesome. And hopefully I pumped you up, and now
Oh yeah,
Saturday will just fly by for you.
yeah. No, thanks for the warm up.
Listen, dude, I mean, look, I like I said, I was waiting for someone who I wanted to be the first guest, and I was
Yeah,
like, as soon as you were like, yo, after this pig harvest, I got you. I was like, yes, yes, that's who I want. And so yeah, man. And so let's just tell people where can they find you. So like, are you maybe just like your Instagram handle? I don't know where else you might be, or if you want to plug the website, if you have a website yet or anything like that.
we have the yeah, we have the Kangen Water
Mm-hmm.
Collective.com website that's got some basic information about the water ionizers and Enagic that we've partnered with. I think Louise just changed her Instagram handle. I
Again, it's
think
not
it now.
it's not forgotten ways now.
No, I think she changed it back to Louise Milleman. Um, I know we're in a little transition. We're going to
Yeah.
start kind of focusing on different things and
Okay.
not. We're still going to be doing the homestead stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just we're kind of making some changes. So I think it is
Okay.
just Louise Milliman now. But
Okay. All right, cool. So that is kangenwatercollective.com. That's for all of the Kangen stuff, great resources. And then again, Louise.Millman on Instagram. That'll get you in touch, at least with Ryan and Louise. Ryan makes appearances on there every now and again. It's always exciting. I'm like, oh, look, there he is. I'm like, Ryan. And, so that's cool. And then, of course, you guys could find me at Dave's Meshed Reality over on Instagram and on YouTube. And I don't know where else I'm going to go. Definitely, I need to figure out Spotify because, again, this is the first podcast. So, Spotify, I will let you guys know. Just make sure that you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Click the little bell. Same thing, follow me over on Instagram and follow Ryan and Louise. Again, Louise.Milleman on Instagram. And she will definitely give you guys updates on what they're doing on the homestead, and that's always a good time. And yeah, so stay tuned, and this will be up soon. So, but yeah, brother, I really appreciate you coming on and chatting. This has been fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. Oh wait, and then before we end here, is that your hat, the free man hat? Is that like, do you make that? Is that
That
your
is not.
merch? That's not your
No,
merch.
I wish it was. This came. His name is Tag, like TAG, and he
Tag.
is in.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's in Kansas, and he started a group called, I think it's called Freesteading. Um,
Okay.
anyway, another person that they have developed an insane community out in Kansas, and I met him. Luis was speaking at an event,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he was there, and him and I hit it off because he's got a great story as well.
Yeah.
Corporate guy, uh, got fired, and like he was like just under the CEO, got fired and drug out by security. He built like a humongous house off grid.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I
um,
mean, I'm sure.
anyway, he's got a cool story, but this is his stuff that
Oh,
I really.
okay.
So he gave it to me when we were there. He was like, "Here's some merch," and I was like, "Heck yeah, thank you." So I just really like the
Yeah.
hat.
Well, you
So
are a free man.
yeah.
That's for sure. But yeah, brother. Okay, awesome. Well, again, this has been super fun. I can't wait to catch up with you again soon, and I'm definitely going to see you, if anything, in October. And we'll definitely chill out and film some content and have a good time. So
Oh
I'm
yeah,
looking
for
forward to
sure.
that, brother. Looking
Yeah, me
forward.
too.
All right, dude. So, anyway, again, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I love you all, and wait for the next episode. All right, take it easy.